He gave us a choice. We could either work with him or work with Dave.
The gold room fell silent. For the first time in nearly a decade, Chris Doumitt wasn't there to meticulously separate the treasure from the trash. His sudden absence sent shockwaves through the Klondike, leaving a hole in Parker Schnabel's crew that couldn't be filled with machinery or money. Parker had just set a record-breaking goal, pushing his operation to the absolute limit.
I'm excited about it.
Me too.
It's something that when I came up here 6 years ago, that was the dream.
What many overlooked is that this ambition came at a staggering cost. The whispers started immediately, but the real reason for Chris's departure and the words he shared afterward paints a picture of loyalty pushed past its breaking point. The unspoken war. The Klondike has a way of breaking things, machines, spirits, and sometimes the strongest alliances. For years, the partnership between Parker Schnabel and Chris Doumitt seemed unbreakable. Chris wasn't just an employee, he was the seasoned veteran, the quiet pillar of an operation built on Parker's youthful, relentless ambition. But in the lead-up to season 15, something shifted. To put it mildly, Parker wasn't just aiming high, he was aiming for the impossible. The target was 10,000 ounces of gold. That's over 600 pounds of pure gold, worth north of $20 million. A figure that would not only shatter his own records, but would cement his legacy as a mining prodigy.
I've got to say it was the people that's the real key. We just got such a good group of guys up there,
Right.
and girls.
But a goal that immense required an unprecedented level of output. What many overlooked was the logistical nightmare this created. To hit that number, Parker decided to run not one, not two, but 3 massive wash plants simultaneously. Big Red, the Rock Monster, and the infamous Lucifer. For the miners on the ground, this meant longer hours and more pressure. But for one man, it meant a workload that bordered on inhuman. Chris Doumitt, the master of the gold room, was now responsible for the cleanup of all 3 plants.
It looks like the boys got a plan that might work.
You see, the gold room is where the magic happens. It's a meticulous, painstaking process of separating the fine gold from tons of black sand and concentrate. It requires patience, precision, and a sharp eye. It's not a job you can rush. Suddenly, Chris was faced with a tidal wave of material. After working a grueling 12-hour shift alongside the rest of the crew, his day was just beginning. He was drowning in concentrate, the sheer volume becoming a physical ordeal. The man who rarely, if ever, complained was stretched to his absolute limit. This wasn't just about working hard. This was a fundamental change in the job he had perfected. The pressure was so intense that Chris, a man known for his calm demeanor, had to speak up. He made it clear that something had to give. The thing nobody tells you is that this wasn't just a cry for help, it was a warning. A warning that Parker, in his single-minded pursuit of a number, was failing to see the toll it was taking on his most loyal soldier.
Well, this year I retired. I threw in with these guys, help them become successful gold miners. Look in front of you, So it's time to step aside and let a younger guy get in that could use the job.
Well, we're set.
The crew was already stretched thin, and there was no one to spare to help him. The empire was expanding, but the foundations were beginning to crack, and Chris Doumitt was standing right on the fault line. A solution was offered, but was it too little, too late? A deal with the devil.
I figured out how to avoid these problems or to work around them.
Many people are crazy about the rags to riches story of Parker Schnabel, but they often forget the key figures who made it possible. Chris Doumitt's journey into the world of gold mining was an accident. He was a carpenter by trade, initially brought on to build cabins for Todd Hoffman's original crew. He wasn't a miner, but he was a quick study and a hard worker. When he joined Parker's team in season 4, he found his true calling in the gold room. He became indispensable. His meticulous work maximized every ounce of gold recovery, adding hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to Parker's bottom line over the years. Parker knew this. In fact, Chris was more than just the gold room guy. He was the glue that held the entire volatile operation together. When tempers flared under the midnight sun, Chris was the calm voice of reason. When new miners needed guidance, he was the patient mentor. He was a friend, a father figure, and the one person who could diffuse tension with a simple word or a quiet presence. To put it in perspective, his departure wasn't like losing a gear. It was like pulling the cornerstone out of the entire building. The structure was now unstable. So when Chris raised the alarm about his impossible workload, Parker eventually listened, agreeing to train crew member Tatiana Costa to assist in the gold room. On the surface, it seemed like a solution, but the damage was already done. You see, for Chris, this wasn't just about the physical strain. It was about a fundamental clash in values that had been simmering behind the scenes. The video that sparked this whole conversation hinted at a massive financial disagreement that went down behind closed doors. While we don't have the exact details, the sentiment was clear. After years of unwavering loyalty and being instrumental in building Parker's empire, Chris was suddenly put in an impossible position. The narrative that began to form was a dark one. Chris started to feel less like a valued partner and more like just another piece of equipment, one that could be run into the ground until it broke. The trust that had been the bedrock of their relationship was eroding under the weight of 10,000 ounces of gold. This feeling of being disposable would lead to a final, heartbreaking decision.
I always did like Parker, even though he was this little ornery kid, maybe reminded me of me too much.
The Empire's shadow. The decision wasn't made in a single dramatic moment. It was a slow burn, a culmination of years of physical and mental exhaustion. Imagine dedicating nearly a decade of your life to someone else's dream. You pour your sweat, your skill, and your soul into building an empire. You see the profits soar, the records break, and the legend grow. But all the while, the unrelenting pace is taking its toll. The thing nobody tells you about the gold rush lifestyle is that it's a relentless grind that ages you in dog years. For Chris, the question became unavoidable. Was it all worth it? Was chasing another impossible number for Parker's legacy worth sacrificing his health and his peace of mind? The answer was no. He chose to step away from the madness. He chose himself. In his own words, as paraphrased by insiders, he had to leave before it consumed him completely. This wasn't a retirement in the traditional sense. It was an act of self-preservation. He was walking away from the chaos of the Klondike to embrace a quieter life, a life where his well-being was the ultimate prize. He had helped build the empire, but he refused to be buried by it. For the viewers and the crew, the impact was immediate and profound. The gold room felt empty, the camp's morale took a hit, and Parker was left scrambling. Many people are crazy about speculating on the drama, and fan theories ran wild. Some claimed it was all for the show, a manufactured storyline to boost ratings. Others insisted there was a massive blow-up fight that was edited out. But the truth, as it often is, was quieter and more profound. It was a story of a man who had nothing left to prove. He had earned his stripes, he had secured his financial future, and he had reached a point where the cost of continuing was simply too high. Chris didn't leave in a blaze of glory or anger. He left with the quiet dignity of a man who knew his own worth, a worth that couldn't be measured in ounces. But what does this all mean for the future of Parker's carefully built dynasty?
At the end of the day, people get fired for this kind of stuff.
A message to the audience. So here we are, trying to piece together a story from televised drama and insider whispers. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we really getting the full picture? People watching this are looking for that mystery, that one key detail we might be missing. The thing is, maybe the story isn't about a secret fight or a massive betrayal. Maybe the real story is one that plays out in workplaces all over the world every single day. It's a story about ambition versus loyalty, about knowing when to say enough is enough. Let's talk directly for a moment. Do you think these things happen overnight? That a man like Chris Doumitt, the bedrock of the team, just wakes up one day and decides to quit? Of course not. This was a slow erosion of trust and well-being. What we see on Gold Rush is a carefully edited product. We don't see the quiet moments of exhaustion, the off-camera conversations, or the true physical toll that a 10,000-ounce season takes on a man who isn't a kid anymore. We see the gold ways, the arguments, and the triumphs, but we don't see the cost. The Parker paradox is that his greatest strength, his relentless single-minded drive, is also his greatest weakness. It's what makes him a mining prodigy, but it's also what makes him blind to the needs of the very people who help him achieve his goals. He sees the mountain, but sometimes he doesn't see the people climbing it with him. Chris Doumitt's departure wasn't an indictment of Parker as a person, but rather a consequence of his operating philosophy. The final, unspoken statement Chris made by leaving was simple. No amount of gold is worth your peace of mind, And that's a lesson that is more valuable than anything they could ever pull out of the ground. Loyalty for sale. Once the official story of burnout and overwork settled, the internet did what it does best. It started digging for the real story. And this is where things get interesting. What many overlooked in the heat of the moment was Chris Doumitt's history. You see, before he was Parker's right-hand man, he was part of the original Hoffman crew. He had a long-standing relationship with Todd and Jack Hoffman, the very people Parker spent years trying to beat.
The miners drift in that ancient river channel, which we believe is really good gold, but you never know until you do your cleanup and find out.
This connection sparked one of the most explosive fan theories out there, that Chris's departure wasn't a retirement, but a defection. The theory goes like this. As Parker's operation reached legendary status, his rivals grew more desperate. Rumors began to swirl that Todd Hoffman, attempting to get a new mining venture off the ground, made Chris a secret, life-changing offer. It wasn't just about a bigger paycheck. The offer was for a partnership, a chance to be a boss, a stake in the company. The one thing Parker, for all his trust in Chris, had never put on the table. Think about it. It's the ultimate power move in the Klondike chess game. You don't just beat your rival, you poach his most critical player, crippling his operation from the inside out. Many people are crazy about this theory because it adds a layer of betrayal to the story. It reframes the narrative from one of a loyal soldier getting worn down to a calculated business decision. Did Parker catch wind of this secret offer? Was there a heated confrontation where loyalty was questioned? The thing nobody tells you is that in the high-stakes world of gold mining, loyalty can have a price tag. This theory suggests that Chris, feeling undervalued and pushed to the limit by Parker's impossible demands, simply accepted a better deal. It paints a picture of a silent, behind-the-scenes bidding war for the best talent in the Yukon, with Chris Doumitt as the ultimate prize. But another theory suggests the war Chris was fighting wasn't in the goldfields at all. While the betrayal theory is juicy, a different, more personal theory gained just as much traction, and to put it mildly, it's heartbreaking if true. This theory has nothing to do with money or rivalries and everything to do with a secret Chris was keeping from the cameras and maybe even from his crew. The speculation is that Chris was dealing with a significant, undisclosed health issue. The brutal, physically demanding work of a 10,000-ounce season wasn't just making him tired, it was a direct threat to his well-being. You see, the show often glosses over the real-world consequences of this lifestyle. These aren't actors. They are real people pushing their bodies to the absolute limit in a harsh environment. This theory suggests that Chris received a stark warning from a doctor, an ultimatum that forced him to choose between his job and his future. Suddenly, the narrative shifts. His departure wasn't about wanting to leave, it was about having to leave. He was fighting a silent battle that no amount of gold could help him win. It explains the suddenness of it all, and why he has remained so quiet, choosing privacy over public drama. Was it burnout, betrayal, or something more personal? Let us know your theory in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more hidden truths. And here's a final question to chew on. Is loyalty in the modern world just a one-way street?